Okay, good evening, everyone. As we are learning, sponsored by A.B. Spry, for Nachas extended from his entire family, by Michal Abram, that we should all learn Shas with Gesund. We welcome in Yitzi Muller, Michael, Saba, Berish Gesserman, A.B. Spry, Aaron Swade, Mel Zachter, Eddie Chazan, once again in the car heading to Pluto. Dr. Black, Yisrael Fisher, who just doesn't know how to join us from Brooklyn. He just doesn't get the connection. Dr. Guy, Ruvain Pollack, Shimon Klein, Menachem Yamansky, Yitzi Fuchs, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, Ilya Shitman, Shelley Zeitlin, Rabbi Kranz, Abe Arbach, Naftali Javelin, Sandy Grunfeld, Mark Frankel. We welcome in here in Shul Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg. We welcome here in Shul Ruvain Shanit, Michal Avram, Gedalia Engel, Rabbi Avram Rezepkowitz, and Mark says he'll be on Zoom shortly. He's waiting. Slow connections. We were quoting the opinion of Rebbe Eliezer that he says, I would be amazed if the porter could swear that he wasn't negligent. He says, as we start the top of Fei Gimel Amud Aleph, Va'afilu b'makom madrin nami, even if it's a sloped area where it's possible to trip without negligence, that's only if there weren't people around. But if there are people around, so then Nasi Raya let him bring witnesses that saw that he wasn't negligent, that he wasn't on his cell phone and he wasn't distracted, and then v'niftar, because where do we say that we impose a shvuah? That's only when there was nobody around. The Tanya, this is the famous shita of Isi ben Yehuda. The Tanya, Isi ben Yehuda. Isi ben Yehuda teaches, the Tanya Isi ben Yehuda, Aimer, it says, if Ein Raya, if there's nobody that witnesses, then Shvuas Hashem Tia Ben Shneim. Then the Shvuah Hashem will suffice between the two of them. Ha Yesh Raya, but if there are people around, Yavi Raya, you have to bring them, V'yipater, and only then would you be exempt. And the Gemara Taka brings a Raya to this. Reb Chia bar Abba Rabbi Yechanan. Reb Chia bar Abba says, first the Gemara says as follows. First, the Gemara attempts to say, I made a bracha already. First, the Gemara attempts to say that first the Gemara attempts to say that maybe, although in Bava Basra Rab Meir said Niskal is a Pesheya, and if Shelley stumbled, he's considered negligent, so if he didn't pick up the pieces, or he didn't pick up his animal, he's Chayiv. Our Mishnah says that the porter is not Chayiv. Reb Chia bar Abba says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, it's not necessarily a contradiction. Rather, Shvuah Zu Takonas Chachamim. This shvuah was a special allowance of the sages. Why? Because otherwise nobody would help move people's barrels. So Rava says, so then what does he swear? If Niskal is a Pesheya, and yet you're saying that he could get away with a shvuah, what does he swear? As long as he swears that he didn't do it deliberately, he's going to be exempt. Now, we're going to continue to explain Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. So the Asr Rabbi Yehuda L'Meimer, Shomer Chinam, Rabbi Yehuda holds that tripping is not negligence, but it's not an oinus. So therefore, a Shomer Chinam will be potter, but a Shomer Sacher will be chayiv. And that's what the Gemara says. Asr Rabbi Yehuda L'Meimer, Shomer Chinam Yeshava. A Shomer Chinam, when he ports it, when he carts it, and it breaks, will swear that he wasn't negligent and he'll be exempt. No, you say Sacher Yesham, but the hired workman, if he was paid to do it, then he's going to have to pay because it's not an onus, it's not any less than being stolen or lost. Hai kedine, vai kedine. The Shomer Chinam is potter because he's potter as long as he wasn't Pesheya. The Shomer Sacher is chayiv unless it was an onus. V'asir Rabbi Elazar l'meimar. Rabbi Elazar says, look, I have a tradition, taka like Rameir, that both the Shomer Chinam and the Shomer Sacher are potter. In Gemara Karameir, Miu Tmeya Aniyim Yichaylim Zev Zev Lishava. I would be amazed if they were able to swear. First of all, Rabbi Elazar holds that Niskal is not an accident. It might be not a pshia, but it's not an accident. It's not an oinus. It's karev l'meiz. So he says like this: Bishlai mishay mechinam. Okay, mishtava shalei pashabam. Maybe he could swear that he wasn't negligent. El Shomer Sacher, but Shomer Sacher amay mishtava. Even if he wasn't negligent, it's not an oinus, so he's chayiv kilei pasha nami ba'ishlume. It's like if it was stolen and lost. Va'afilu Shomer Chinam nami, and even a Shomer Chinam ateinach b'makam madrin. That's if it's on a slope, because on a slope maybe it's not a pesheya. Shalai b'makam madrin mi matzi mishtava shalai pasha. But if it's not on a slope, it was level ground, and he shouldn't have tripped unless he wasn't watching where he was going. And even if it was a slope, that's only if nobody was around. And here he quotes Isi ben Yehuda. The Tani Isi ben Yehuda, Isi ben Yehuda says, only where do we impose an oath? When ein roeh. Then Shvus Hashem Tia Ben Shneim. But if there were people around, Yavi Raya v'Yipater. And now we're going to see cases of Isi ben Yehuda's halacha. Hahu Gavra, well, Marshall is not here. Usually Hahu Gavra is Marshall. So we got to look. Who looks suspicious with dark sunglasses in a car trying to get away? There he is. Eddie Chazan. Knew it. Mamash, he has guilt written all over him. In the getaway car. Yesterday he had a beard. Today he doesn't. It's he changes his disguises like I change my shirts. So, Ahu Gavra, he was transporting a barrel of wine, barista kada mechuzah, in the marketplace of Mechuzah, Rava's town, in the marketplace of Mechuzah. And what happened is as Eddie was carting it, utavora beziza de Mechuzah, it got smashed with a projection that was projecting outside of the wall. So as I said, it's the locality of Rava. Also the Kamei Rava, it came before Rava. Amalei, so he says, look, that was in the marketplace. There are hundreds of people around there. There's people around. Zil Aisi Raya, go bring proof that you weren't negligent, that there was something sticking into the Rishus Harabim that you could anticipate. V'yipater. So Amalei Rav Yosef Berei, so Rav Yosef, Rav's son, who was trying to follow the reasoning, says, Kaman, is this going to Isi? Is this like Isi ben Yehuda that dashens the pasuk that only when ein roya could you swear? Amar in Isi, yes, it's like Isi Usvirulon Kavase, and we hold like him. Now, we're going to see Isi ben Yehuda even in a different case. How Gavra Eddie still wearing the glasses? He won't take them off. I'm telling you. He's on the run. You could see that. There he is.
You could add Oklahoma City to your list of personalities.
You know, I thought I saw Oklahoma in the background. I thought I saw it. You know, Eddie, they're hot on your trail, Eddie. You just got out of Arkansas by Mamish. You squeaked by them. You know, you're right. We need an atlas to keep up to. Yisrael, Eddie puts you to shame. He makes Tannersville look like, very tame, But anyway, so what happened over here is, I told Eddie, Zilzvinli Arba Mea Dane Chamra. Go buy me, because Eddie's big business, go buy me 400 barrels of wine. Eddie has a big truck over there. Go buy me 400 barrels of wine. He's in California by the vineyards. So buy me 400 barrels of wine. So Ozel Zovenle, he went and he bought it for me. But also the Seif, also the Kameh, he comes before me with the following tale. Amalei Zvinelach Arba Mea Dane Chamra. Rabbi Weiss, I bought you the 400 barrels, but Uskifule. But they became sour. Now, I smell a rat. I suspect that either he bought vinegar instead of wine, and he's trying to pocket the difference. That's what I suspect. Or he's trying to give me his vinegar and keep the wine. You notice, Rabbi say, he's back on with the glasses. What do you expect? So again, also the Kami de Rav. They came before Rav. So Rav has an interesting application over here of Isi ben Yehuda. A very interesting application. Rav says, if 400 barrels of wine turn sour, that's something that people talk about. Did you hear what happened to Eddie Kazan? He bought 400 barrels and it became, that's something that people talk about. Amar Rav Amalei Arba Ma'at Dane Chamer Tekife Kol Isla Lamilsa. People know about it. So since people know about it, it's like there's witnesses. So then Zil Aise Roya bring proof to make Karaki Mazvnislu. When you bought it Chamra Ma'al it was good wine, and then be potter. So in other words, again, it's like Isa ben Yehuda. If there's only below Roya, only bein Roya, only if there's no witnesses. But here it's considered like there's witnesses because it's something that people talk about it. So Amalei Rav Yosef Reis, Rav Yosef, his son, said, "Kaman, who is this like Isi? Is this like Isi?" He said, "Yes, Amalei in Isi usvirlan kavasi." Now, let's talk a little bit about porters. Let's talk about a little bit about carters. Let's talk a little bit about Eddie while we're on the subject. Asking Rav Chia by Yosef B'Sichra, Hani didoru ba'agra. Now, here's the thing. A load, if it's too heavy for one person, then you have to have two porters. What happens if it's too heavy for one person, but it's not, it doesn't warrant two people? So then they cart it with what's called a agra, a type of, today we use a, what's that thing that we do on wheels?
Dolly.
A dolly, thank you. See, certain people play with dollies. So, Philippe...
Only the heavy duty ones, right?
Philippe plays with a dolly, a cabbage patch. So...
And it talks to me, too.
Yeah, so says the Gemara, Hani didoru ba'agra. If they use a dolly, the itpa, and it breaks. So this is not actually, it's not actually a negligence, but it's not an onus either, because the person maybe should have ascertained that he couldn't handle it alone. So there was a little bit of a loss of judgment over here, a lack of judgment. So we make them share the loss. Nishalim palga, my timer, nofish lechad, it was too much for one, v'zuta l'trei, and it was too little for two, karv la'ainis v'karv l'shia. Now, but let's say Eddie was an Iber Chacham. He took kegs that needed two people. But Eddie said, look, I'll make double pay. I'll do it for myself with a double dolly. He used a double dolly. So, says the Gemara, bedigla. Digla is like two yokes, a double dolly. Then, because he was an Iber Chacham, because he was a wise guy, so he said, look, you took on too much than you could handle. That's a pshia and mishalim kula. You have to pay for the whole thing. Rabba bar Chanan, tvaru lehano shkuloi chavita dechamra. Rabba bar Chanan, who was a Talmudic scholar of note, porters broke a barrel of wine, and it was their fault because they stumbled, and niskalas pesheya on ground that's not sloped, or they used a double yoke, which is no joke. So also amru l'Rav, so they told Rav, Amalei havlu glimayu. Excuse me, 1 second. So what did Rabbi Bar Chanan do? I skipped. Shakal glimayu. Since they broke his wine, so he seized their cloaks as payment. Also amru l'Rav, they came to Rav. Amalei, so Rav told Rabbi Bar Chanan, havalu glimayu, return them their cloaks. Amalei, so he says, Dinachi, is that the law? But they were pesheya. They shouldn't have used the double yoke, or they shouldn't have stumbled. So Amalei, so he said, yes. For you should go lefnim mishuras adin, laman teilach b'derech tovim. You should go in the way of the good. So Yavli Gemara. So he listened, of course, to Rav, and he gave them back their cloaks. Now, they said, but we want to get paid. We don't have what to eat. Amalei aniyei anon. We're poor people. V'tachinan kula yuma, and we work the whole day. V'kafinan, we're hungry. V'leslan midei, and we don't have anything. So Amalei, so Rav told Rabbi Bar Chanan, zil havigrai. He didn't tell them, give them what to eat. He said, pay them for the day, even though they broke his wine. Amalei dinachi, is that the law? Amalei in v'orchas tzadikim tishmar. You should heed the way of the righteous. In other words, that's the way of the righteous. Hanu lach haseicher es ha'umnin. Hanu lach haseicher es ha'umnin. Hanu lach haseicher es ha'umnin. Rabbi said we're closing in on the finishing of this Masechta, which is one of the most difficult Masechtas in Shas. It's really, really, very exciting. Really, we got to plan a really nice siyum on this Masechta. Now, I wonder where Mark is. He said he'd be here already. Well, that's the thing. I told him, I gave him the idea of being stuck on a piece of bubble gum, and he took me, he took me seriously. Okay, now, I hired Philippe and Yeshua Shmuel. V'amar lehem, and I insist lahashkim ulaharav, that they should come early and stay late. So they tell me to go jump in the lake. Here he is. Here he is. As he cleans the bubble gum off his shoe, he is here, the man himself. And as Mark steps in as the 27th Zoomer of the evening, we want to give a shout out to Irving Fishbaum, who is not here tonight because his daughter Chaya Fega and his son-in-law Yisrael Meir are being honored as Parents of the Year tonight. So a shout out to him and a mazel tov to him. Also, we want to give a shout out to Marshall, who I know is making a minyan in a shul for yard sites. He'll be here soon. And Shalom Fogel, who is still in Eretz Yisrael. So we're missing a few of our regulars. Nice of, and Rabbi say our thoughts and our hearts and our prayers go out to our Chaver Adaf Yitzi Padower, who would a lot of times be on with us, and now he's struggling with 6 children without a young wife. Hashem should give him a lot of koyach, a lot of koyach. I also lost a young wife, but she was 11 years older, and that 11 years was a very big difference, because during that 11 years we married off all 6 of our children. And he didn't marry any of his children. His wife never saw a child married.
There was one that was married.
There was one that was married?
Yeah.
Oh, Baruch Hashem.
Yes, one was married.
Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Ay. I did visit him. I spent an hour with him and his parents on Sunday. So anyway, let's get back to I hired Yeshua Shmuel and Philippe, and v'amalem la'ashkim al'arav, and I told them that they should get up early and come late. So they tell me, go jump in the lake. Makom shenagu shaloi la'ashkim v'shaloi la'arav. If it's a place where the minhag is not to get up early and not to get up late, ain't a rash l'chayfim. I can't insist. Makom shenagu lazayin. If the minhag is to give lunch and supper, maybe yazon. L'sapik v'mesika. If the minhag is to give dips, not just bread. And Philippe says, what do you mean bread? I'm going to eat bread and water. I can't eat just plain bread. It's like sawdust. I want an olive dip, and I want an avocado dip. So if it's the minhag l'sapek b'masika, to give sweetening or relish, yisapek, you have to give it. Hakol committing amadina. Everything is like the local custom. The famous story, which we had in several places in Shas already, Ma'aser Rabbi Yochanan ben Masya she'amar lebnoi. Rabbi Yochanan ben Masya said to his son, "Say yischol anu poilim, go and hire workers." So halach, he hired them, and upasik lem ezaynis, and he just promised them food. Ukishaba eitz alav, and when it came to his father, Amalai b'ni, my son, afilu emata oisalem kesuda shleima b'shaitai. Even if you promise them like Suda Shlomo HaMelech in his time, lo yotzasi yedei chai v'aschimam, you wouldn't fulfill your requirement, because these are royalty. Shem b'nei Avram Yitzchak v'Yaakov. You can't just say you're promising them food. If you promise them food, you got to give them kachka, you got to give them filet mignon, you got to give them, Mark will tell you what he has for supper. You got to give them, stuffed mushrooms and caviar. What do you think? Where do you think Mark was? He was finishing, the the crepe zuzettes that he had for dessert before he came on, right? So he just figured he would come just in time for the Agadita. I know my customers. So says the Gemara, rather, Ela ad shelo yaskilu mimalacha, hurry up before they start working. Say ve'emelahem, go and tell them, Almanasha ein lechem alai, as long as that they don't have a request from me, Ela pas v'kitnias bilvad, only bread and legumes. Reb Shimon Gamliel says there was no reason to do that. It's assumed whatever the local custom, the standard fare to give to workers. So the Gemara says, if I didn't stipulate that Philippe and Yeshua Shmuel should work early, then of course I can't make them early. Pshita, duh. Says the Gemara, the chiddush is that I promised to pay them more. No, it's regular workers made $100 a day, and I promised to pay them $136. So therefore, I could tell them, that which I paid you more is adata the miktamisu machshakisu, that you're going to come early and stay late. Kamash Malanda Amalei Yeshua Shmuel and Philippe say, no. Hi, the Tavaslon you gave us because you know we're superior workers. You were relying that we do a better job for you. Amrei Shlakish, as we turn yet another page in Bava Metzia, Amrei Shlakish, I see Sandy Grunfeld says that the Padawars had a married daughter and a grandson. Baruch Hashem, so Mrs. Padawar did see an Einikel as well. Urei vanim levanecha shalom al Yisrael. Now, Amrei Shlakish. Here's an interesting thing. Yeshua Shmuel is working for me. He's supposed to work from sunrise to Tzeit HaKachav. When does he travel to get to me? And when does he travel to get home? So the Gemara decides over here that to get to me, since he's coming to work for me, he could travel on my time. So therefore he starts traveling at sunrise. But since he's leaving to get home, he has to travel on his time. So he only leaves at Tzeit HaKachav. So let's see it inside. Payel b'knisasai mishalai. When he arrives using the Balabayas' time. However, b'yitziasai mishal Balabayas. But when he leaves, then the other way around. B'knisasai means, I was wondering, b'knisasai means when he enters back into his city. So payel b'knisasai, when he leaves at night and he comes back to enter into his own city, mishalai. There he has to take from his time. He could only leave after nightfall. B'yitziasai, but when he leaves the city, that's Mishal Balabayas. That he could take off from me, from the employer, because there he's coming to work for me. Now, as Michal Avram returns with the Gemara, we are holding two lines from the top of Daf Pei Gimel Amid Beis, 83b1, Shenemar, Tizrach HaShemesh Ye'asefon. when the sun, when the sun shines, then ye are seifun. The wild animals are gathered in. The wild animals that roam freely in the night, they're gathered in. And they go back to lie in their habitat, in their lairs. Yetze adam lefayalai. A man goes to work when the sun comes out. So you see, he goes to work on the employer's time. But when does he? And he extends his work ad adeyarim, until the evening, but he leaves on his own time. Says the Gemara, but I don't understand. Didn't we say we do everything according to the minig of Medina? So v'leich say heichi nehige. Let's see what the minig is. Says the Gemara, Be'ir Chadash, it's a new city where they don't have a minig. So let's see the people of this city, where did they come from? If they were immigrants from Poland, so let's see what the minig was in Poland. Says the Gemara b'Nekutai, it's talking about where it was a melting pot. They came from many different places. Ibayasema, to Amalahu, he said to them, to agrisu li kepayel daraisa. I'm hiring you. You're being hired by me like a pile of the Torah. So therefore we go basa what the pasuk says. And now, once we open this, we open up a very interesting Agadita discussion. Mark says that even if he was skiing in the Alps, he'd tune in for Agadita. He says, come to think of it, skiing in the Alps sounds pretty good. Not as good as Agadita, I agree with you.
Nothing is as good as the Agadita.
No, I agree with you about that too. You know what it says about Agadita? Divrei Agadita moishchin es alei. The words of Agadita draw the heart. It's a very special thing, Agadita. It's special like the people that are on this share. You notice, by the way, over here, that it's so quiet without Marshall. I'm telling you. It's mamish, it's like... says the Gemara, Darish Rabbi Zera taught, the Tani Rav Yosef taught in a Braisa, Maidich Siv Toshes Choshech, Hashem set darkness, Vihi Loila, and there was night, Boy Sirmois Kol Chaisayar, then swarms, in the night the beast comes out, then swarms all the beasts of the forest. Toshes Choshech Vihi Loila, he sets darkness and there's night. This is this world that's like night. This world is always called night because there's a cloak of darkness. There are many people that don't know. They stumble around. They don't know. For example, we're going to learn in this week's parasha. We're going to talk about it extensively tomorrow night. By the way, we still do not have a sponsor for Parashas Bahar. 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. No sponsor yet. We're going to talk about tzedakah, and there are people that they spend money on everything, but they don't give tzedakah. When in truth, in the next world, that's going to be the currency. And it's just, they stumble in darkness. So, there swarms all the beasts of the forest. Elu Rishon, there's the wicked. They're like a beast in the forest. A wild animal conducts himself, the Rishon conduct themselves as beasts. A beast does whatever it wants, and follows its natural lust without inhibition. Tizrach Hashemesh, when the sun shines, Yeyaseifun, they'll be gathered in. So says Rashi, Tizrach Hashemesh, when the sun shines, when good times come, that's la tzadikim, for the righteous in the next world. Yeyaseifun, the wicked will be gathered in. Yeyaseifun Risham Leganim, the wicked will be gathered into hell. Ve'al ma'onasan yirbatzon, to their, ma'onasam is plural, to their lodgings they will recline. Every tzaddik will have a special place on his level. Ein lecha kol tzaddik v'tzaddik she'ein lo modar lefi kvaydai. His life will design for him his mansion in the next world. Yetzei adam lefa'alai, man will go out according to his work. Yatzu tzadikim lekabel scham, the righteous will go to get their reward. V'la'avoidasei adei orev. When is that? When will he get full reward? If he did work until the eve of his life. In other words, that he didn't regret it towards the end of his life, chas v'shalom, but he did work until the end of his life. He completed his work till the day he dies. Chas v'shalom, if a person regrets it at the end of his life, he could lose all his life's work. Le'aleinu rachmana litzlan. Rabbi Elazar ben Reb Shimon ashkech lahahu far hagavna. Far hagavna is an inspector. It's the reason why Eddie is in 7 states in 7 days. You know, there are inspectors. So Rabbi Elazar ben Reb Shimon found one of these inspectors that seek out the bad guys. The toughest ganvei, who was arresting thieves. Amalei, so Rabbi Elazar ben Reb Shimon said to him, Heichi yachlaslu, how do you win over them? After all, lav kechevasa mesile, aren't they compared to beasts? Dichsiv boy sirmois kol chai seyar, they swarm like the beasts of the forest. So ikadamrei mehai krok amalei. Some say that the inspector told him from this pasuk, Yerav b'mistbar, I hide in ambush, ka'aryeh b'sukai, like a lion who waits in his lair. So, but Rabbi Elazar, Reb Shimon asked him, but maybe you arrest the wrong man. Dilma shaklis tzadikei v'shafkis rishiyei. Maybe you capture the righteous and you leave the innocent. Amalei, so he said, look, I got to arrest people. Am I avid? Hamana de Malko, I'm under the fiat of the king. I'm under the king's command. Amar, so he said, look, let me teach you what to do. I'll tell you how to be a good inspector. Go into the cafe at 4 hours. That's when people are eating breakfast. They used to have wine at breakfast. If you see a person drinking wine, the kanokit kosa b'yodeh, and he's holding his cup of wine, the kabanamne, and he's dozing. So that's a sign that he was up during the night. That's a sign. Thieves are up in the night. That's when they ply their trade, when people are sleeping. So that's already makes him suspicious. Sholilvei. Now, do an investigation. Itzum rabbanan huvanoyim. If he's a Talmudic scholar who's dozing off, that's because he got up very early to learn. Aktume kadam legirsei. That's because he got up very early to learn. If he's an agricultural hand, kadim ka'avid avidite. He got up early at the crack of dawn. Avidite b'laylia. It's possible he's a night workman. And you don't hear work coming out of his house. It's possible redude radid. Maybe he's doing quiet work, like stretching metal piping or metal wires. But if you see that he doesn't have any work going on, then ganvahu, then he's a thief, v'tofse. So this kind of Sherlock Holmes like work, la'avdil, ishtama milsa malka. They heard about this. The king heard about the wisdom. He said, Amre kraina digarta, the reader of the letter, iu lahave pavanka, he should be the messenger. In other words, karyana digarta, the one who's giving this information, let him do the job. So Asiul Rabbi Lazar Reb Shimon, they hired Rabbi Lazar Reb Shimon because toughest ganvei va'azl, and he was arresting thieves. So Shalach le Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha, this is Rabbi Lazar, the son of the great Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. So Shalach le Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha, Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha summoned him, Chaimitz ben Yain, your vinegar the son of wine. The heilige son of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai is arresting people. Ad Masai Atamaiser Amoy Shel Elikenu, how long do you deliver Jews lahariga? Because they used to kill habitual thieves. Shalach lei, so he says, I'm just cleaning out the weeds. Kaitzim ani mechalim in akerem. I'm cleaning the thorns from the vineyard. So Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha told him, let the Rabbeinu Shalom clean out his own weeds. Ki hamishpat elikim, shalach leyavei balakerem v'yichle eskaitza. But Rabbi Lazar Reb Shimon continued doing it. Yom echad, paga be'ahu kaivis. One day he met this guy who was a laundryman, and Kare he called Rabbi Lazar Reb Shimon Karye Chaimitz ben Yain, your vinegar the son of wine. So Rabbi Lazar Reb Shimon was a great man. So Amar midchotziv kulei, since he's such a chutz ben yak, shmamino rishiyahava, that means he's a very wicked person. So he said, arrest him. Amalu tifsu. So tifsu. However, afterwards, Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah regretted they were going to hang him. So Labasa did not daite, when Rabbi Lazar calmed down, Ozil Basre Lefruke, he went to release him, V'loi Matzi, but they wouldn't release him. Kari Alei, so Rabbi Lazar Reb Shimon said about this laundryman that his mouth got him into trouble. Shaimer Pivelu Shainai, if you watch your mouth and your tongue, Shaimer Mitzaras Navshai, his chutzpah mouth got him in trouble. So it's a kufu. They taka hung him. Come to say Zakif of a kabachi. Rabbi Lazar Reb Shimon went to the hanging, and while they were hanging him, he was crying. Amrulay, so they told him, they did research about this fellow. Rebbe al Rabbi Necha, let it not be sad in your eyes, he deserved to die. Shahu b'nai balu nara marasa b'yam kippurim. He and his son committed adultery on a betrothed maiden on Yom Kippur. So, Haniach Yadai al Bnei Meyav, Rabbi Lazar Reb Shimon put his hand on his innards, on his kidneys, on his heart. Amar Sisu Bnei I Sisu, you could rejoice, my innards rejoice. Mas Fekes Shalachem Kach, even when you were not sure about what you did, it turns out you were right. Vadoy Shalachem, those that you're certain that are wicked, al achas kama v'kama. Muftach ani bachem, I am confident that you are not going to be attacked in the grave by worms and maggots and worms. Muftach ani bachem, she'ein rima v'seilea shaletes bachem, that maggots and worms will not hold sway. However, he still wasn't completely confident. So he decided to do a test to see if his body was susceptible to worms and maggots. He did a surgery. Unbelievable. Ashkiyua sama deshinsa. They gave him a potion to put him to sleep. That was Talmudic anesthesia. They gave him a potion to put him to sleep. They brought him into a marble house. A marble house had no winds, so therefore it was safe to do surgery. The Karul Lekrese, they opened up his stomach, and have a mapkemine dikle de tarba. They removed baskets full of fat. Umoisvei b'shimsha b'tamas ba'av, and they put it into the sun in tamas and av to see if the worms and maggots would get to them. V'loi mitzrachei, and they didn't decay. So the Gemara says, well, fat, look who's here when we talk about fat. We really missed you, Marshall.
Where are we holding right now?
We're holding, your timing is not too good these days.
Minion timing, what can I say?
We're holding 3 lines from the bottom of Pei Gimel Amud Beis. So
My timing is perfect.
So the fat didn't decay. So the Gemara says, as Mark is bothering Mark, pure fat doesn't decay. Kol tarbanami loy masriach. All fats don't rot. Says the Gemara, yeah, but there was red streaks in the fat, like red veins going through the fat. That does decay. Kol tarbaloi sriach. But shuraike sumke masriach. The red streaks does decay. But hacha afal gav deika shuraike sumke, even though there were red streaks, loy masriach. So Kari anafshe, he said about himself, af besari, even my flesh, yishkain levetach, will dwell securely in the future. Okay, we're going to now learn the Mishnah Yomis, since Marshall doesn't want to miss a word of Mishnah Yomis.
I'm here.
Remember tomorrow night, Rabbi say, don't forget, Chumashir, very special Chumashir on Bahar, if I might say so myself. Let's go like this.